Welcome back to part 2 of this tutorial. A lot of fun stuff today, and what we're going to be starting with is converting everything that you've made in part 1 into a 3D environment. That means switching every element that you have in your scene into a 3D layer. And what we're going to be doing first is parenting every single layer to a null object, and the reason why we're doing that is so we can push everything back at once. And then once we have pushed everything forward into Z space, we can then select those elements that were in your foreground originally and push them back towards the camera. This very boring and annoying step can be avoided if you originally intend your matte painting to be a 3D matte painting. When I first started making this tutorial, I wanted to create a 2D matte painting and then converting it to a 3D matte painting later, so I can show you guys what is involved in creating both a 2D matte painting and a 3D matte painting. However, if you are creating a 3D matte painting only, then I would suggest just pretty much placing your newly created elements into 3D space directly right off the bat. One thing you should always keep in mind is where you are in the world, and grab elements from that location and use them in your matte painting. Over here I know that I am in a specific part of New York, and I am grabbing elements and I'm searching for elements in that very same area. Over here we just have a column that I keyed out and masked out, turned it into 3D in a 3D layer. I'm using a top view of my project here, and I'm just placing it in the background. You can see it over there, and it's again where it looks right. This is actually the image that I'm referencing. This is what my location is for this matte painting. Now you're seeing some repetitive stuff here. It's all about masking and keying things out, and you know, like matching them to the feel of your matte painting. My feel is overwhelmed by nature and this post-apocalyptic type of matte painting. You see me adding that texture over and over, you know, setting it to a blending mode. Pretty much once you've learned a couple of steps, it's all about repeating them in a smart way to get the best look for your matte painting. Think outside the box. Look at images and look at those images not just as a whole image, but of elements that compose that image. And once you do that, you can break it apart and use it in your matte painting. Just add some plants, match everything together, and pre-comp it and place it into the 3D environment. Now we have created most of the foreground and middle ground elements, but we still don't have a background. So what I have here is this beautiful image of a jungle, and I'm gonna position it in our matte painting in a way that looks good, but also that doesn't look like a flat image that's just been dropped in your matte painting to act as a background. I'm gonna use that branch as a way to mask around that edge, and to cover that sharp edge on top, I'm just gonna add a tree over there. You can isolate it for a moment and mask it. And this is something cool about this particular matte painting. It has so many elements that if you are limited by the images that you have, such as that background jungle picture had that sharp edge on top, then you can use other elements to pretty much cover up those limitations, such as the tree that I've just placed. I'm going to duplicate that image, and I'm going to move it to the right of the matte painting, and I'm going to flip it. And I'm pretty much almost symmetrically doing the same thing on the other side. This is something you should avoid, especially in a matte painting such as this. Symmetry in nature is usually very hard to find. And the only reason why I'm doing this in this particular case is because it is something that is in the background. You have other elements in front of it that do not make it look symmetric. And also, if you look at the left side with the right side, most of that background is covered by trees on the left side, and a little more is revealed on the right side. Duplicate again for the centerpiece, and again, by placing elements in front of it or behind it, or by flipping it and by rotating it, you can make the same image look like 100 different variations. Over here, I'm just adding some finishing touches to some more elements in the middle ground, just to give it more of that urban feel. I'm just gonna add this traffic light. You, as usual, key it out, mask it out, and then just place it in your 3D environment. What I also did is I separated that traffic light, and I gave it a little bit of an animation, almost as to seem like there's a little bit of wind and that traffic light is just dangling. Now let's add some fog, because we are cheating in a way a 3D environment. So to sell this effect more, we're just gonna add a little bit more of atmospheric effects to give it that depth. So we're gonna simply create a white solid. Click OK, make sure it's the comp size, and actually we're gonna add a little bit of a ramp just to not give it this flat feel. Match the colors that you have in your scene. Add it to overlay, and then just duplicate those layers and push them back into 3D space. What you're going to want to do now is scale everything up, and once you drop the transparency on it a little bit and set it to screen, you see that it's a really subtle effect, but it really adds a lot to your matte painting. Now I am going to be using a few elements from Action Essentials 2 by Video Copilot. These are simple atmospheric effects created with Smoke Machine, but if scaled up and placed in between your 3D elements of your matte painting, will add a more dynamic overall feel to your matte painting, as everything that we have now is simply not moving, with the exception of that traffic light. Everything else is pretty much static. So this adds a little bit of movement, and it makes your matte painting feel more alive in a way. This concludes part 2. I am glad you made it all the way to the end. Make sure you tune in for part 3, because we're going to be covering a lot of interesting stuff with a lot more tips and tricks coming ahead. I'm glad you stayed with me to the end of this video, and I'll see you in part 3.